So, just deserts. Now, chapter 4, verse 1. Just save us. We left Judah at the end of chapter 3 sitting on the ground in the dust, mourning the losses that she's taken. And now, right at the start of chapter 4, she's desperate for a solution, desperate to be saved. Let me read chapter 4, verse 1 for us. In that day, 7 women will take hold of one man and say, "We will eat our own food and provide our own clothes. Only let us be called by your name. Take away our disgrace." The picture describes Jerusalem, Judah, after her military defeat. Everything's been lost, even the right number of men for the right number of women. And so 7 women will plead with one man to take them into his household, to take away their shame. Gone is everything they'd been used to. And they're trying to get their heads around a new normal, if you like. And yet. Do you remember the very last verse in chapter 2? Here it is. God said to Judah, "Stop trusting in mere humans who have but a breath in their nostrils. Why hold them in esteem?" And yet here's Judah still trusting in mere humans. Desperate for a human to save them from the consequences of their sin. It's like watching a spiritual car crash in slow motion, isn't it? First, Judah's gone her own way and been trusting in herself and the illusions of grandeur that she'd built up for herself. And all that's been taken away. Yes, she's recognised that she's in a desperate state, and yet she still hasn't turned back to God. She's still trusting in mere humans to get her out of trouble. Will she ever learn the lessons, we wonder? It's just like reading a spiritual commentary on our own once Christian-rooted nation, isn't it? Wonderful Christians of the past, people like William Wilberforce, had great influence on these islands, didn't they? We were known as a nation of churchgoers whose unwritten constitution was based on and rooted in the Christian scriptures. The Queen had to swear allegiance to God at her coronation, and parliamentarians swore allegiance to her. But we've moved away, haven't we, from those foundations? We've left God out of things. It was David Cameron, wasn't it, some time ago now, who said we don't do God? Or was it Tony Blair? I get them mixed up. Whoever it was said we don't do God. And our society would say, well, we've moved on, we've grown up. And yet today, we sit on the ground and we lament among the nations. And as a whole nation, we grab hold of one committee of scientists and we plead for our disgrace to be taken away by them. Just like Judah, we're looking the wrong way, aren't we? We're trusting in mere humans to rescue us from our national malaise. Even the Church of England is being careful to follow the science. Yes, God often gives us wise people to rule over us and to advise us. And that's good, isn't it? But it's God who gives us those people. He's the source of that goodness. It is him we should be trusting in and looking to. And this little verse in Isaiah chapter 4 gives us occasion, doesn't it, to examine ourselves and who it is that we are trusting in. Are we doing a Judah and trusting in mere humans? Trusting in science with a capital S? Or are we trusting in God and welcoming his driving us back to himself as a nation? It's worth pondering, isn't it? Of course, if we're believing Christians, there is one to whom we cling, isn't there? Just one. And he has given us his name. That's Jesus. We are his people, in his family, if we're trusting in him. So let's resolutely look to him for our rescue, and let's cling to him with all our might, knowing that he's holding firm to us, even today, even now. And so before we come to our final glorious section in chapter 4, we're going to sing together of God's rescue of us, his people.